first week of learning, the tweaking, the celebrations, assessing and progressing, organizational systems, calendar math, letter reversal tricks, and a picture slideshow of our learning in action this week. Only 8 topics, that's all. Only 8, and hopefully I can get through them really quick. The beginning of the day was great. I myself couldn't even sleep. I woke up way early, had my coffee, my avocado toast. A nice morning for myself. I was waiting for my kids to wake up, but they eventually did wake up pretty much on their own, and they woke up. My little 3-year-old son made his bed up. My daughter, who has, he has like a little toddler bed, so it's easier for him, but my daughter, who has a bigger twin bed, she struggles a little bit with the bed making, but she actually did it, and then I went in and helped her and showed her, the correct way and everything. I myself forgot to make my bed up, so as they were making their beds up, I ran to my room to make my bed up so I can set a good example. They got their clothes on. I have set the Alexa alarms, and if you want more information, I've shared about that in my Instagram stories, and I can send it to you through Instagram private message or something like that. So all of those steps, if you want to know how to do that. Actually, today I learned a different and better way to do that. The morning was really good. So I have the Alexa song set, and there's this very cheery good morning, how are you? Little song that I have set. It's Good Morning by the Kaboomers. You can find it in Amazon Music. And so that's the 5-minute warning song. So when my kids heard that, we had talked about it the night before, when they heard it, they really did. They scrambled to get to their seats. They sat down. They were coloring. It was so pleasant. It was so nice. So exciting. Our morning calendar and reading and all of that, the morning really went very smoothly. Here's another thing, another win. Now don't worry, this isn't going to be all about the good things. I'll tell you the tweaks that we need, but another win is that there were times, this may not sound like the win, but it is a win. There were times when my son, like when I was reading the magazine about good citizenship or something, when I was reading with my daughter, that my son his attention span went, but she still stayed with me. And so at the time, he had the leftover foam from the base 10 blocks that he was standing there and he was tearing apart. He took some of the letter stickers out that were in the basket in our craft area or whatever. So I could see him and he was fine. And the win about this is that it wasn't distracting to my daughter. She was able to still focus and do what she needed to do. So that is a huge celebration. I feel like that's a huge celebration. And then as mid-morning started coming along, we hit writing time, and I did get a little bit of from my daughter, I don't really want to do that writing assignment, And we did an I promise writing assignment. So I modeled it, the I promise, these are my promises to you, and she did, these are my promises to you. So it was a little back and forth writing assignment. And so I was like, listen, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I need you to get your sketch and label done. And, and when I come back. So, and she had that done by the time I came back. So thank goodness. My kids did lose some clips today, if you've watched my incentive envelope video. So that's one thing that's going to have to be a tweak, because I'm not going to be able to tolerate whining when I ask her to do something. And I do understand that I am her mom, and so she's going to push me more. She would definitely push me more than she would push a teacher. So that's a tweak, and that's something we're going to have to work to. But I'm all about turning fears into solutions, finding solutions for problems. So I guess I'll go ahead and share what my solution is, because it doesn't matter. So anyway, so at the very end of the day, after we had finished all her schoolwork, she was ready to watch YouTube, and that is her thing. She has certain vlogs and channels on there that she likes to watch with kids her age and so forth. And so I was like, well, you don't have all your clips up there, this is not even something that I had said. I was like, you don't have all your clips over there, and I really didn't like how you whined during writing and math time. I'm looking just to kind of see what we did. So so there were two, so it was just, that was it really, is the whining during writing and math time, just like a little resistance to, I don't really want to do this, you know? So, so then honestly, there was a little bit of a meltdown, and she went to her room and cooled off or whatever. And then we sat down and we kind of talked about, because I didn't want it to like totally ruin our first date, because there were so many great things. So again, a celebration, a win is that she still loved the day. And that makes me happy as a mom. And I had to, in my head, I had to stop and say, I know it's not all about just like keeping her happy. She has to learn, she has to, you know, but I still, you know, there's still that mom part of me. But she still enjoyed it. Even with me pointing out that there were some things I want her to work on and stuff, she still enjoyed it. When my husband came home, she still said that she had a good day. She said that her brother didn't listen, and he did fine too for his age. He really did. She loves science, and which it was more of a discussion thing today, but she really does. I mean, she gets excited about that. So it's interesting because you get to see what it is that your kids really want to do, and then what they don't want to do, because we all have that. We all have our things that I can't wait till this, and then I don't really like that, you know? So, I actually turned it alphabet, the alphabet people, I turned this video on, and she got engrossed in that for Miss A. That was more so for my son, but she got into that as well. So, craft time. When craft time came, my kids were like, woo! Like, they were so excited to make their apple craft. So, and I remember even when I had her home with me when she was 3, and I did like letter lessons a couple of days a week, and the crafting, painting, all of that was always her favorite. So she back then, even when she was 3, she would resist me on some things, but craft time, she always liked that. So it's always interesting to see what they really actually enjoy. So I think that's basically all. I mean, I think I kind of covered it. That was our day. There were a few little tweaks and things that we're going to have to work through. I did, a little change that I'm going to make is, because with the incentive envelope, she actually at one point looked to her brother and said, oh, well, we can just earn it back by the end of the week or something like that. Like, she had figured out, if we keep getting it back and forth. So I guess there's some things I should think about changing. Like, is she allowed to get the clip back? But I think that should be allowable, I think. But I think what I'm going to add when this whole YouTube thing came up is that she's going to have those clips, like her 5 clips, in order to get YouTube. So I think I'm going to add additional like afternoon incentive in there. And that all just wraps up into like motherhood and stuff. I mean, all of these things are things that I'm always working through, and no, you can't watch TV until you clean up your room. And there's always that. I have now survived 5 days of school at home, and my kids have 2. And overall, we had a really great week. When I look at the big picture of things, it was really awesome. A lot of the fears, a lot of the things that I was worried about worked out. The number one celebration I feel like is that my daughter, who is in 1st grade, so even though both of their education is serious, she's in elementary school, so I feel like hers is just a tiny bit more serious. She completed all of her work, and she was able to ignore her younger 3-year-old brother anytime he, got a little fussy, or an activity didn't last his attention span but needed to be done for her needs. And so that was the biggest thing that I could celebrate, and I awarded her for that and told her that she did a great job about that, because that is what is going to carry us through that. So that's a huge celebration. I can look at the little nitty gritty things and like, yeah, we need to tweak that and we need to fix that and so forth. Like I said, there were times where, my son, I would pull out blocks, or I would pull out Legos, or I pulled out the busy basket, and I discovered different things. Like, he really didn't focus with us as well during reading time. So he did a separate activity from us, but my daughter was able to handle that and understand that, his learning is a lot more play right now, and even though her learning is play as well, but she's a few years step older than him. And then I would read with him while she was doing writing, which actually worked out really well, sitting with him and reading. And it also pulled me away from sitting right beside her and guiding her through that whole process and giving her some time to just process on her own and really have that independent writing time like she should, where she's actually producing her own independent writing. So there were little tweaks like that I made, and we'll keep tweaking all along the way. There were moments like even today when I turned on Jack Hartman's Count to 120, and he started fussing because he saw another video on YouTube that he wanted to watch, and he just fussed and cried and cried and cried. And by the end of the song, he was waxing on and waxing off, and we just rolled with it. And that was one of the things I told myself, is when these things happen, I'm just gonna keep rolling with it. So overall, really, truly, it has been great. And and also in our schedule, I'm glad that I allotted the time that I did, because even there are some days when we haven't needed it. And on those days that we haven't needed it, that's when my daughter gets to go and play with the Legos that my son was playing with, or they, run around the house and whatever imaginary play that they come up with or something. So, and I just let them go, and, I'm fixing supplies or whatever for the next activity. And I don't really worry about it until, the next song comes on for the next transition, and then we get back to business. However, I will say, there were some times where I would have to say, okay, I hear the song, okay, we need to sit down and do this, and so forth. And I did have to ask, a couple of times or push that, okay, that this activity's ending, we need to move on. And so I had a conversation, it's Friday, it's the last day of the week, and I had a conversation with my daughter. I said, you did awesome, you did great. I complimented her on the ignoring, I complimented her on finishing all of her work, for working so hard. But I told her there were a couple of times where she whined about doing a thing or two. There was a time when she, when I had to remind her. And so I said, next week, we really need to work on that. I don't want to, see that happening all throughout the school year. So I do hope that that progressively gets better. And of course, it's going to always be just working and rolling with it and tweaking and moving forward and keeping going and do the best we can. So oftentimes when I did the incentive envelope, which is what I've chosen to do with my kids for managing behavior, is with my own students is, that's kind of how it was. It was those conversations, especially at the end of the week. It was that communication, those conversations where they understood, where I stood and where they stood, and this is what you need to fix. And there were some times where the kids listened and had no more problems afterwards. There were other times where they really pushed it, and then eventually they did have to miss out on those celebrations at the end of the week. So that's kind of how I handled it then. I'm trying to handle it that way now. First year homeschooling, I don't know exactly what to anticipate at the end of the year with a portfolio check and everything, but I'm trying to be as organized as possible. I'm trying to document as much as possible with photographs, with dates on papers and so forth. So this is kind of like where I'm keeping all of the paperwork kind of things, work she's done, my things that I need to do to organize this whole homeschooling process. So I've purchased one notebook. It might get very full, and I may have to separate things out as the school year progresses, but this is where we're at now. So basically, if you open it up, we have, these are my lesson plans. I know you can't see in detail, but you really don't have to see in detail. It's just me kind of walking you through it. So then I have tab divider. On the back of my lesson plans and kind of throughout my lesson plans, always, I love using sticky notes for ideas and where I'm going next. So of course on the days I'm gonna have exactly what we're doing, but then I want to keep thinking in my head, where am I going next? And so these are like my where am I going next activities. So where am I going next with calendar math? Other activities that maybe I had planned for this week, but a better idea came into my mind, so I'm going to push it off till later, so I have it on that sticky note. On this sticky note, I have word work activities. Where am I going to take word work? I based a lot of that off of her word study inventory. And as a matter of fact, if anybody happens to be watching and has word work activity ideas, feel free to share, because I have some ideas here, but also I'm always open to new ideas. So I would love to hear your word work activity ideas. So especially for short vowels. Okay, so that now I have these tabs, and so I haven't even labeled them, but I know in order that it's reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. So the first thing is on here, again, another sticky note for later on activities. And this is when I went through the standards and just, you know, kind of mapped out everything that she needs to know. I know it looks kind of messy, but already I've put two little green stars to show me like these are some of the first things that I'm going to start working on. It seems to fit in well with everything that we're doing. And then this is where I'm dating it. I haven't written much, but we've only had a week. I'm dating it and kind of just jotting down anecdotal notes of like things that I'm noticing that she's doing well at, things that I'm noticing that she needs to keep working on, so I can find activities to fit her needs. And then these are all her assessment pieces. So lots of running records and things like that. So then we move on to writing. I was so happy. I should have brought this, but I used to have a case, like a black like file folder case. And when I was a writing resource teacher, I used to carry it from one classroom to the next, and it was like my box of tools. So it had all kinds of, you know, like handwriting practice, little word chart things for kids, lined paper for kids that needed help with spacing and so forth. So it had all of these tools just ready to go. So if I saw a kid that was having a certain issue, I could just grab it out and give it to them so that they could start using it. And another thing was the writing menu. So I found that in my like portfolio box thing, and I was so excited because that's going to be so helpful. And maybe it's changed for our district, but I'm sure it hasn't changed that much. So I was super excited to find that. So these are just writing objective teaching points, writing craft, different things that I can teach her along the way. This was again my just scratch sheet of when I read the standards, all me just kind of sorting out, these are the things that she needs to know and learn this year in writing in first grade. And then this is a page that I wrote the genres, narrative. I'm going to work on narrative. I'm going to work on narrative the first and second 9 weeks, opinion the third 9 weeks, and then I'm going to do inform and explain in the fourth 9 weeks. It's just kind of my idea of how I'm going to sort and organize it. We may introduce some different genres kind of back and forth throughout for different purposes, but that's kind of one way of making sure that I get it all covered. And then I have listed 36. I haven't officially finished this yet, but that will help me kind of map out how I'm going to do everything and make sure that everything is covered. And then this is, and then these are her word study inventories. So, so there's that. So, yeah. Okay, so then we move on to math. I have anecdotal notes, and we don't have anything else in there because we've been playing lots of games, lots of hands-on things, and you'll see some pictures of everything we'll be doing at the end. And then and then this is science. So 5 senses, we've been talking about tools, and so these are all kinds of the different things, science vocabulary, different things like that, just introductory things, and then that's all. And one thing that I did forget to share is another thing I did mark when I kind of had a conversation with her today. I did mark the 2 expectations or rules that I'm like, we're really going to focus on these next week and make sure that you do a better job. So that way I can compliment her and really, you know, make sure that I'm telling her you're doing great at this. I asked you to do better at this, and you have been doing better at this. So still on the celebration-wise thing, she was doing some letter reversals. And I noticed that like on the first day, and then on the second day, I asked her to write a word, and I saw her actually pause. It had a B in there, a lowercase b, and she actually paused, and I knew that she was thinking about which way does this B face. So that is such a celebration that I asked her to do something and work on it and improve, and she definitely took the time to think through that and do it the right way. Also, as I've been doing some word study inventories on her, today she did a word study inventory, and which was just like writing 6 words, and she did not reverse any of her letters. So that was such a celebration, and it makes me so happy to kind of see, even in a week span, we're already seeing progress and improvement. So that really makes me happy, and excited. Always just me being the teacher part, but now there's also that additional layer of being a mom as well. So it's a great, exciting things. So speaking of letter reversal tricks, so one thing that I can show you, and I'll show you up on the screen, how the capital B actually has the lowercase b in it. So if your child or whoever maybe a student that you're working with or something might be flipping that lowercase b, you can show them that the lowercase b is in the capital B. So that's something that I showed her, and I think that was helpful for her. A couple other things that my mom actually shared with me is, I have it written down actually. The bat hits the ball. So if you look at the B, the stick, and then the ball is the bottom part. So the bat hits the ball. That's one way to remember the B, especially with the bat, bat and ball. And then also the C for the D, letter D, the C comes before the D. So you put the C and then you put the stick on it and then you have a D. C comes before D. Make the magic C, turn it into D. That kind of thing. So those are just some little phrases that sometimes are helpful for kids when they're reversing letters. So the last thing is talking about how I'm going to extend calendar math. So if you go back to some of my previous videos, particularly part 1 and 2, I talk about, actually I think I talk about it in the very first video, part 1. I talk about how we are using the ones and the tens, and we're coloring on the 100 chart the day. And so we color, like we drop a cube in, a unit, a ones unit for each day. So we now have 5 ones in there, 5 units, 5 cubes in our little baggie. So that's all. Well, we've been doing that with calendar, checking the weather and what was yesterday and what's today. And we've been doing things like that. But that's kind of all we've been doing so far. So today I actually introduced an extension to the calendar math, and I plan to continue to extend and add more and more activities into that calendar math session. There are so many great things that can happen with calendar math. I even enjoy doing calendar math with 4th grade, and I even got some really nice and genuine and good feedback from a parent one time about how her child came home and told her about this calendar math that we do, and that made me so excited. It's always nice to hear nice things like that from a parent. So anyway, so this is, so we're gonna use this every morning, and we're gonna write what the number is, and then we can look at the chart, or we can discuss what is one less than our number of the day, which will be however many days we're in school, and then what is one more. And then the other one is, I made this chart, and both of these resources, this one and this one, are free on my blog. So if you'd like to print them off and use them at home as well, feel free to. So this one is so we can take the number and we can put it in standard form, whatever our day number is, and then you can also show it in many different ways. So in word form, expanded form, place value, money, and tally. So that's just, these are a couple additional things we're going to add to our calendar math time. It's such a wonderful time to add those basic concepts that build upon each other throughout math in the very start of the day, and talking about the day and the calendar and all kinds of other things. So at this time, I'm going to put something up on the screen, and I'm just going to play some music, and you can read through some other ways to extend calendar math and ways that we do plan on extending calendar math later on throughout the day. Do some shout outs right now, and I actually do want to do a shout out to @StruckByReading. This doesn't necessarily relate exactly to the Hopeful Homeschool or my homeschooling stuff, even though her kids are actually going to be homeschooling this year. She is also a teacher. I don't know where she is located, but she's somebody that I met on Instagram, and I actually got to participate in her Malala book study this week, and she did a Zoom book study, and it was really neat to just get on a Zoom with people, but they were really other teachers that I don't know and everything, and so I thought that was a pretty cool thing. So I thought that I could use her as a shout out. I also want to give a shout out to my husband that allows me to pursue this little hobby, that's allowing me to homeschool our kids, that's watching our kids as I do all of these extras and be able to create and make things and have fun with it. And I guess the last shout out, I just want to make a general shout out to so grateful to everyone who has supported me and sent messages and participated in our live sessions. And it's just a very small group of people, but it's really cool that in these days and in this strange situation, all the strange situations that we're in right now, and with all the newness, that there have been people that have been there and have been a part of this journey with us. And I just really appreciate those that have really swapped ideas back and forth, have complimented, have said this is really helping me, and I really appreciate all of you. And if you've watched all the way to the end, you're awesome, and I thank you so much, and I wish you the very best. And please know this is so much fun for me, and when you're sitting here like supporting something that I love doing, I want to support you back. So if there's any way that I can support you, it makes my day and it makes me so happy to help another person. So may the adventures that lie ahead bring you joy, growth, and experiences that inspire you to be the best teacher and mom God created you to be. Don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up with our journey and all the different things we're learning and doing and so forth. Bye.